Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar, Rare Pediatric Disease Priority Review Vouchers, or How the Creating Hope Reauthorization Act Helps Children with Rare Diseases. I'm Karen Holzer, the Senior Director of Policy and Regulatory Affairs with NORD, the National Organization for Rare Disorders. With me today is Haley Mason, also with NORD, who will introduce herself in a second, and we will hear from several leaders from our rare disease community about how vital this program has been for them. First and foremost, I would like to thank our sponsors, ACURS, Acadia Pharmaceuticals, BIO, the Biotech Innovation Organization, and PCT Therapeutics. Without their generous support, the research that you will hear today and all the activities that we are undertaking to make sure that this vital program is reauthorized before its expiration date, September 30th of this year, would simply not have been possible. For our agenda today, we will first briefly talk about why we are here and why developing life-altering therapies for children with rare diseases is so difficult. Then we will talk about how the PRV program works, and we'll dive into NORD's own research into the program's effectiveness and how it has impacted the rare disease community. You will have an opportunity to hear directly from community leaders on the importance of the PRV program for their community. And of course, we will have ample time for questions and answers, so get your questions ready. With that, I would like to hand it over to Haley to talk about why we're here today.
Hi guys, my name is Haley Mason and I am a policy analyst with the National Organization for Rare Disorders. I've been with NORD for the past 2 years and work on everything FDA and NIH. So I'm going to go a little bit into the background as to why we're here today and why we believe the PR reauthorization is so important for our community. So as many of you guys are aware, almost 30 million Americans live with a rare disease, half of which are children. And rare diseases as a collective are not rare, and we still need additional incentives to encourage innovation, as more than 95% of rare diseases have no FDA-approved therapies. In addition, 30% of children with rare diseases will not live to see their 5th birthday, making this particularly dire, and developing therapies for pediatric patients is often more uniquely challenging than for adults. A common thing that we say is that children are not small adults and that they have different physiological considerations for drug development. There are also ethical considerations for pediatrics and small patient populations that often make drug development more difficult. And now I can turn to Annette Baker to explain her perspective from the Children's Tumor Foundation and why the PRV program is so important for their community.
Hi, I'm Annette Baker. I'm the CEO of the Children's Tumor Foundation. The Children's Tumor Foundation is laser focused on ending NF. NF stands for neurofibromatosis and schwannomatosis and affects 1 in 2,000 patients. 4 million people living worldwide with NF. NF is a family of neurofibromatosis and schwannomatosis patients. And although the genes that are involved in the challenges of each of them are different, most patients will develop tumors on their nerves. And if one patient, moreover, will develop issues such as learning disabilities, bone issues, pain, and if two related schwannomatosis will develop issues related to hearing loss, tinnitus, balance issues. Non-NF2 related schwannomatosis patients are characterized by excruciating pain due to the schwannomas or other issues that we don't know exactly. And what is happening is that the patients are on a journey and they never know what's going to happen tomorrow. And as one of my board members perfectly described it, she said, Annette, living with NF is like walking through a dark train tunnel. You'll never know when the train will come, but when it hits you, it can be really hard. On the other side, for the pharmaceutical industry, developing drugs for an unpredictable progressive, multi-organ, few patients disorder is an enormous endeavor and requires enormous investments as much as for the more common diseases. So the only way we can make it attractive for pharmaceutical companies and doable to work on rare diseases is by building incentives. And that is why I have always been so extremely happy by the incentives by the US government and by the FDA of things like breakthrough, orphan drug designation, pediatric voucher, in Europe, Prime, just to make sure that companies that work on NF and work on NF or other rare diseases are compensated and thanked for the courage they have to work on diseases that are not that easy to work on. So I would highly encourage to make sure that all the incentives are maintained to make sure that pharma does not have to abandon rare disease and our patients. Thank you so much and have a nice day.
Thank you, Annette. That was great to hear from the Children's Tumor Foundation and how the PRV program has helped benefited your community. So I'm going to go a little bit into how the Rare Pediatric Disease PRV program spurs rare disease drug development and get into the background of how this program works. So first, a drug company would have to develop a drug and receive a designation for rare pediatric disease. And then, as the clinical trials move forward, they would go through and demonstrate their safety and efficacy of a drug and then receive FDA approval. Upon this approval, if it is determined that this drug serves the rare pediatric disease community, they would then receive a PRV voucher. Then, this company has two choices. They can either sell or transfer the PRV to another company, or they can keep or redeem the PRV for themselves for a second drug that they would then put on the market. Oftentimes, as we found in our research, companies sell this drug to bring in more capital for their rare disease drug development program. For an example on drugs that would not qualify for priority review, is that they would redeem the voucher, then they would go under priority review, which is 4 months earlier in the pipeline, and then either they would receive approval or they would get a CRL, or a complete response letter, which means it is not approved in their current form. So to get a little into our research for the Rare Disease Drug Pediatric Review Voucher, many more fit therapies are in the pipeline. Our research found that more than 560 pediatric disease designations have been made, and 53 rare pediatric disease PRVs have been awarded, showing the positive impact of this program and had commitments to study and treat rare pediatric diseases. And as you can see in the chart, the purple line shows how rare pediatric disease designations have gone up with the amount of PRVs awarded as well. And we saw the program's most impact between the 2020 and 2024 time, with more than half of all RPD PRV designations and boards and redemptions occurring in the last 4 years, as you can see. And this program has shown really big benefits to the rare disease community. 39 rare diseases have gained treatment options. Remarkably, before 2012, 36 of these 39 rare diseases had no FDA-approved treatments prior to the creation of this program, only 3 of which had therapies on the market. This included cystic fibrosis, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and Dravet syndrome. Now, there is something that you can do to help make sure that this program gets reauthorized. As you can see, there's overwhelming evidence to support that this program works, in which we will also share our full research report with you after the webinar. But the RPD PRV program is set to end on September 30th, 2024, with this deadline approaching and making it more and more important. Your voice matters, and you can help push this vital legislation across the finish line, in which in the next slides, we will show you how you can do that and engage with your local representatives and federal representatives. But first, I will turn it over to Gina Class from Dreamsicle Kids Foundation to display how the PRV program has helped the sickle cell community.
As a mom and caregiver of a child with sickle cell disease, I cannot stress the critical importance of the Rare Pediatric Disease Priority Review Voucher Program. In the last 6 years, we have seen accelerated development and approval of groundbreaking therapies for sickle cell disease. This brings new hope to families like mine. This program isn't just a regulatory tool. It's a lifeline, providing essential therapies to improve the quality of life for our children.
Eugenia, it was great to hear about your advocacy, and we thank you for all your support for the sickle cell community. Now I'm turning it to Leslie Gordon from the Progeria Research Foundation to explain the importance of the PRV program to their community.
Hi, I'm Dr. Leslie Gordon, co-founder and medical director of the Progeria Research Foundation, but mostly I'm Sam's mom. Sam had progeria, an ultra-rare premature aging disease. Babies with progeria are usually born looking healthy, but soon experience growth failure, loss of body fat and hair, and most importantly, they develop a rapid form of atherosclerosis, or heart disease. This is the same heart disease that kills millions of Americans each year in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. But for these children, rapid aging causes them to die on average in their mid-teens. When Sam was diagnosed in 1999, there was nothing out there for him or any of the other children. Sadly, this is a very common scenario for ultra-rare diseases. So my husband, sister, and I created the Progeria Research Foundation, or PRF, to find the cause, treatments, and cure for progeria. Like so many other families affected by a child with a rare or ultra-rare disease, we knew that interest from commercial drug developers would be a huge hurdle. So we got to work on the research ourselves. In 2003, in partnership with the amazing National Institutes of Health research team of Dr. Francis Collins, we found the cause of progeria. A single genetic letter is misspelled and leads to the creation of a disease-causing protein we call progerin. This random genetic disease affects only 1 in 20 million people. Today, there are 18 children with progeria in the US and about 400 worldwide. We formed the PRF International Progeria Patient Registry, followed the science, and in 2007, we launched the first ever progeria clinical drug trial in partnership with Boston Children's Hospital. We flew children in from around the world to test a drug called lonafarnib, or Zokinvy. Our clinical trials led to a partnership with a small company named Eiger Biopharmaceuticals in 2018, and in 2020, the first ever FDA-approved drug for the treatment of progeria. With Zokinvy's approval, the FDA also awarded something called a Rare Pediatric Disease Priority Review Voucher, or PRV, to that biotech company. The PRV was sold for $95 million, and the proceeds of that sale were split equally between Eiger and the Progeria Research Foundation. Zokinvy increases the average lifespan for children with progeria by about 4.5 years, or about 30%. We've moved the needle from mid-teens to late teens, with more and more patients living into their early 20s. The sale of the PRV provided vitally important funds to ensure patients can access this life-extending treatment. But that's not nearly enough. All children and young adults with progeria deserve better treatments and the cure so they can live long, happy, and healthy lives. But research, drug development, and clinical trials are challenging and extremely expensive endeavors. The sale of the PRV provided PRF with the funds to accelerate our research efforts as we get closer to the cure for progeria. The PRV program is absolutely vital for those of us working to bring advances to children and families affected by ultra-rare and rare pediatric diseases. It generates interest in drug development. It supports research for diseases that would otherwise be left behind. It offers hope for children who might not otherwise see a treatment or a cure for their ultra-rare or rare condition. The existence of this priority review voucher incentive program is a game changer for the rare and ultra-rare disease communities. Thank you.
Leslie, that was great to hear from the Progeria Research Foundation and how the PRV program has helped your community. I will turn it now to Karen Holzer to explain how you can get involved in the program.
Thank you so much, Haley. And thank you so much to everybody in our community who has worked together to raise awareness and help really people understand how difficult it is to bring therapies to market for rare pediatric diseases and how important the Rare Pediatric Disease Priority Review Voucher program is. We have a defined window of time to get this program reauthorized by September 30th. And your voice as a member of the rare disease community matters so much on Capitol Hill and beyond. So we have a variety of ways for you to get engaged. First, thank you for being on the webinar today. As Haley said, we will have an opportunity for you to answer your questions and to talk more about the program and how it has impacted the rare disease community in a second. But there's a lot more you can do. We have a sign-on letter addressed to leaders in Congress, urging leaders to timely reauthorize this vital program for our community. So far, we have almost 200 patient organizations signing on to this letter, but we can do better. With more than 10,000 rare diseases, we hope that we can get as many organizations in our space as possible to sign on to the letter and to really urge congressional leaders to work together and get this program reauthorized. We will share the link to the sign-on letter in the chat. And a huge thank you to everybody who has already lended their voice. In addition, you as an individual advocate can make your voice heard. You can send an email to your elected officials, and we have an action alert up on our website that makes that very easy for you. Again, we will share the link. All you have to do is put in your zip code, and it will help you automatically populate an email to your elected officials, where you can urge them to reauthorize this really important legislation, which is called the Creating Hope Reauthorization Act. Hope sitting is that, and trying to really make sure that we get this reauthorized before the September 30th deadline. As I think we all heard from our community today, there is no doubt that the Rare Pediatric Disease Priority Review Voucher program makes the almost impossible possible to research and develop life-changing therapies for children with rare diseases, many of whom currently do not live past their 5th birthday. We cannot let this program end. We need your voice. With that, I would love to hear your questions and would love to dig deeper into the program and what it means for our community. Haley, I am looking forward to having you join me as well for this discussion. So please put your questions in the chat. There's a Q&A function. We want to hear from you. We really need you to be part of the movement. We need everybody's voices. September 30th is not far away. And as you have seen, this program is really important. The first question, Haley, for you, that we've heard a number of times. it is exciting to see treatments coming to new rare disease areas and diseases that have had no treatment options before. And as our research has shown, in several places, we've had more than one treatment, more than one PRV awarded for a rare disease. And I think we heard that really loud and clear from Leslie as well. Just there's been progress. We have moved the needle, but there's still a lot more to go. So I was wondering if you can talk a little bit more about the unmet need that remains.
Yeah, sure, Karen. Thank you so much for that question. And Leslie, and you are exactly right. Just because a disease state has been awarded a PRV and the needle has been moved further along in their rare disease drug development does not mean that the job is done. For example, in our research, Duchenne muscular dystrophy has received 7 PRVs. But a lot of them are unique. Some of them are steroids, some are exon skipping therapies, and some are cell and gene therapies, all which do different functions for different manifestations of Duchenne's. These have been really beneficial for the Duchenne community. A lot more men with Duchenne's are now living into their 30s, but this does not mean that because more therapies have been made and more progress has been made in this state that the job is done. There are still hundreds or if not thousands of people that cannot take these therapies that have been made to market as they just would not work for their manifestation. So I hope that answers the question, Karen.
Absolutely. And I'm starting to see questions in the chat and in the Q&A function, so keep them coming. Next question that I see on the Q&A. Can we share the sign-on letter link? Absolutely. We will put that in the chat right now. Another question is around the reasons for why Congress is dragging its feet to reauthorize the bill. Haley, do you want to get started? And I'm happy to add some color commentary as well.
Yeah, so the bill has been introduced in both the House and Senate in similar versions. I will say it has gone a little bit further on the House side. And the last time that the Creating Hope Reauthorization Act was supposed to be marked up in the larger Energy and Commerce Committee, the meeting was canceled and we're still waiting for the meeting to start again. I don't know if you want to provide more nuance to it, Karen, or how it was repackaged. But I also do want to say, I think that I would have to follow up with the sign-on letter and the action alert link in an email afterwards with all the registrants. The chat is only going to us panelists, so we'll be sure to follow up in an email.
Fantastic. So we'll make sure that everybody has access to the sign-on link for the letter and to the action alert. To add a little bit more to what Haley said, first to clarify, she was absolutely right that we had hoped for the Creating Hope Act, how ironic, for the Creating Hope Act to be marked up in the House ENC full committee a few weeks ago. That hearing was rescheduled for completely unrelated issues, not related to this bill. It's just we are getting close to summer recess, so schedules are starting to work against us. One of the big concerns that we have heard about the Rare Pediatric Disease Priority Review Voucher Program and why we at NORD spent so much time producing the report that was released yesterday is because the last official study that looked at the impact of the program occurred in 2019. That was, well, the study was published in 2020, but the data analysis ended in 2019. That was just a few years after the program started in 2012. As we also painfully know, bringing a rare disease product to market takes a long time, on average, something between 10 and 15 years. Looking at the impact of the program after only 8 years, there really wasn't enough data to find a really strong impact of the program. And that's what the GAO report, that study, said. Now, a lot of people have interpreted that to mean that the fact that the study couldn't find a significant impact back in 2019 meant that the program maybe doesn't work. That's why we went back as Haley said in her analysis, more than half of the data that we were able to analyze was collected after that last study ended. More than half of all drugs that have come to market with the Pediatric Priority Review Voucher awarded occurred after 2019, just in the last 4 years. If you look at the pipeline, if you look at drug candidates that have received a PRV designation, which puts them in line to receive the voucher when they are approved, we have seen the steady increase. Haley has shown the slides, and it is in the report. It's almost exponential growth. We have more than 500 drug candidates in that pipeline right now. Most of that, more than half, didn't exist. Just happened in the last 4 years, so it didn't exist back when the GAO study came. That's why we did this analysis, and there's a lot more education that we have to do to really show the new data and to really show how much this program has impacted our community, in particular in the last couple of years. Anything, Haley, from your side to add?
No, I think that's great. I think, yeah, just to keep in mind that since the GAO study was published in 2020, that yes, it is true that we've had more than half of our data collected. And we believe that if we keep this program running and reauthorize it, that we will have more and more designations being sought through this program as more companies will be incentivized and fill in the gap that rare pediatric diseases has.
Great. And I think our wonderful events team was able to share the action alert link and the sign-on letter link in the chat. We will still follow up by email, but it is in the chat for anybody who is interested. The next question that I see, Haley, is if you can talk a little bit more about exactly how the economic incentive works.
Of course, yeah. So a company that is looking to develop a therapy or a drug for rare pediatric diseases receives a priority review voucher. They typically, they have two choices, but typically this company will choose to sell this PRV, the voucher, to another company to bring in extra capital so that they can continue their rare disease drug development research into other drugs or other therapies. Oftentimes we see that this incentive is needed because these therapies are treating populations for thousands, if not hundreds of patients. So the economic incentive is not typically there, or say if it's a cell or gene therapy, you are taking this therapy once, and so it is not taken again and again. So the PRV would allow to bring more millions of dollars back to the company. They're usually sold for millions of dollars to continue their development. Does that answer the question, Karen?
Absolutely. The next question is around the funding allocation for the program and kind of what the economic impact of the administering the program is. I can get started, but Haley, by all means, chime in. We know that largely this program really doesn't have a huge budgetary impact. It is, as Haley just explained, the way it works is a company that develops a drug for a rare pediatric disease, so for these really devastating, really difficult to study diseases, receives a voucher, which allows a different drug to get priority review at FDA, which means that FDA will complete the review of that product in 6 months as opposed to 10 months. Doesn't say that the product is necessarily approved. There have been a number of cases where the product was reviewed more quickly through priority review, but ultimately was not approved. So the one economic impact of the program is the additional staff time from FDA. In 2020, there was a government accountability report that looked at the predicted economic impact and really found just staff time at FDA. In recent weeks, both Peter Marks, who's the head of FDA Center for Biologics and Research, and Dr. Cavazzoni, who is the head of FDA CEDA. So both the biologic and small molecule parts of FDA, they have been asked publicly in various forums about the program, and both of them have expressed the importance of the program, and there was no concern about that that I have heard expressed in any of these forums about the the additional staff time from FDA that might be required. So to answer the question, the funding allocation for this program when it comes to the federal budget is quite minimal, but the impact is quite immense. Haley, anything to add from your side?
Yeah, just to add a little bit to what the staff time would be on this, is typically, like Karen said, reviewing the drug that is under priority review, using the voucher. And we didn't show it in the presentation, but it is in our larger paper, that there is some predictability to redeeming vouchers, and how much FDA would have to prepare for that. So in total, for rare pediatric disease PRVs that have been redeemed, only 23 so far have been redeemed across the entirety of the program. So since 2012 to now 2024. And what we did find in our research is that these drugs are typically sold quickly and they're also redeemed quickly. And also we found that only about 2 are redeemed per year. So while there's no requirements of when you can redeem the voucher, or there's no time restraints on when you have to use it or anything, we can predict that once a company sells it, it will be quickly redeemed as well.
And because we did get a couple more questions about this, I just wanted to follow up. Completely agree with everything Haley said. The voucher that we're talking about, that a biotech company can sell or use themselves, really, the only thing it does is it allows a different drug that would not meet FDA's criteria for priority review to receive priority review. What that means is that the timeline that FDA commits to from when they receive the application to when they make a first decision of whether to approve or not approve that application is shortened. Normally, FDA commits to a 10-month review time. Under priority review, they commit to do the same thing in 6 months, so 4 months earlier. That is the benefit that we're talking about. As Haley said, there have been consistently over the last many years about 2 additional priority reviews that FDA has conducted because of the PRV. There are also some strings attached. In order for a company to use a PRV, they have to notify FDA ahead of time. So FDA will know ahead of time and can plan accordingly that they will have these additional priority reviews on their docket. Another question that we received is around what else we at NORD have been doing to help get this program reauthorized, and in particular, what advocates can do and what additional ways to get engaged beyond the sign-on letter and the action alert. Haley, you want to get started? I'm happy to chime in too.
Yeah, so for the first part of what else has NORD been doing, we've been engaging with a lot of bipartisan House and Senate offices to raise this issue to them and explain how impactful this has been to our community. We've also partnered with other companies in the rare disease community to engage their advocacy efforts to really help get this over the finish line. But outside of the action alert or the sign-on letter, we would encourage that you reach out to your local officials to explain the importance of this program and how it may or will benefit your community by having this program reauthorized. So we would encourage you to do that. I don't know, Karen, if you have any other perspective.
Absolutely. So over the last several months, because we knew that this reauthorization was coming, we, as Haley said, have tried to educate lawmakers through individual meetings. We actually just held a congressional briefing yesterday for the Senate, where we talked through our new report, where we went through answered questions and really were able to bring in, again, voices from our community to talk about the impact that the PRV program has had on them and their communities. Our CEO, Pam Gavin, just a few weeks ago penned an op-ed that was published in Stat and that we can share with you, where she expresses the importance of the PRV program for us, raising awareness. We continue to engage with lawmakers as we are hopefully moving closer towards a hearing or markup and a reauthorization. As Haley said, we are getting close to recess, which means that congressional leaders are in their home districts, which can be an opportunity for you to engage with your local elected officials. And this increasingly looks more like a marathon than a sprint. And so as we are getting closer, there will be multiple opportunities to weigh in, raise awareness with anybody who is willing to listen. On the slide, you see both Haley's and my contact information. Feel free to reach out. Happy to see how we can best help you get engaged in the way that is right for you. This is a quickly moving issue, but it's one that is really important for our community. There are a couple of other questions around the mechanics of what PRVs have been awarded for and redeemed for and how that works. A lot of that detail is in the report. They have very long tables. So I would really urge anybody who's interested to look at that data, see how it hopefully impacts your community, or at least brings hope to your community. Again, Haley and I are always happy to answer any questions that you might have. Our contact information is there, and we are happy to connect anytime. Just seeing if there are any other questions. We only have a few minutes left. The last question I have for you, Haley, is after spending so much time looking at the data and really working with our community to understand the impact of the program, what is the one thing that you want our community to take away from the conversation today?
I think the one thing that people should take away from the conversation is that rare disease drug development has really had a boom in the past 4 years, and that there are more therapies in the pipeline, and that this program is one of the reasons why rare pediatric diseases is getting so much attention. So I think it's important to have this program reauthorized and have lawmakers hear your perspective as to why this program is so important, whether or not your disease state has received a PRV or is going to receive a PRV from the pipeline. I don't know if you have anything else to add, Karen. Last perspective.
Just a couple more questions in the chat that I want to briefly touch on. Yes, the slides will be made available. Actually, we have recorded this webinar, and we will make this available through our website as quickly as we can. We want to make sure that as much of this information is available to our community as possible. There was also a question around the reception yesterday about our congressional briefing, and I think it was amazing. There was standing room only, really strong support for the rare disease community, and it was just amazing to hear from so many different voices how important the program has been for our community, and to really see so many rare disease leaders show up at that congressional briefing on the afternoon of a really busy day, because there is so much commitment among congressional leaders for the rare disease community. with that, I know we're out of time. I want to make sure that I thank once again our sponsors, Acadia Pharmaceuticals, Acurs, the Biotech Technology Organization, and PCD Therapeutics, without whom both the report that we published yesterday and today's webinar would not have been possible. And I really want to thank all of you for taking time out of your busy day to learn more about the PRV program. And I hope that you will consider lending your voice to help get this program reauthorized. And I want to thank the amazing NORD staff for making this webinar possible. Haley, as well as everybody who's worked behind the scenes tirelessly to make this happen. Thank you so much. And please be in touch. Bye.